Chapter 2269. Fallen one after another. Zhu Yu also paid a heavy price to break free from the constraints of the torrent. It is true that the impact force will be reduced by turning the water flow into huge ice blocks, but she was like being smashed into the ground by an extremely huge pillar of ice and snow. The huge force was unimaginable. Fortunately, she has enough abilities. This includes the ability to strengthen the system. So, in terms of physical strength, she is comparable to the enhanced mutant of the Black Chariot level. Relying on the strength of her body and powerful self-healing ability, she was able to block the attack. Zhu Yu stood up on the huge ice flower. This was the first time she had encountered such an embarrassing battle since she was born. But this did not make her frightened, but excited and angry. For the first time, she fought against a Black Chariot-level mutant with her own strength, which made her realize what a truly strong person was like. But unfortunately, that's all you can do. Zhu Yu wiped the blood off the back of his hand. Midier took a deep breath, suddenly opened his arms, and a blazing white light emerged in his eyes. Boom! Above the sky, thunderclouds and storms gathered rapidly, and the power of wind, thunder, and rain was quickly taking shape. Zhu Yu also made the same move. You have only 5 or 6 celestial phenomena at most, but I can control over more than 700 kinds of power. So after you've revealed all your cards to me, you're no longer qualified to fight me. There were bursts of thunder in the sky. The celestial phenomena above Zhu Yu are more complicated than Zhu Yu itself. There are not only strong winds and thunder, but also heavenly fire that is like suspended stars, covering the entire sky. The earth was shaking and the light and shadow were changing rapidly. Zhu Yu activated more than 10 abilities at the same time. Midier finally felt a little panic, but at the moment she was unwilling to admit that she would be defeated by a human. Go to hell. She controlled the strong wind, thunder, and heavy rain, and attacked Zhu Yu. Heavy rain formed a torrent, which she believed was the weakness of the Red Yew tree. But Zhu Yu raised his hand lightly, and a large number of hailstones like huge rocks fell from the sky, smashing down on Midier. A cold wave came, and the heavy rain turned into ice in midair. Midier's pupils constricted, and she suddenly realized that her ability had no effect on Zhu Yu at all. Above the sky, Mars fell, and one after another fireballs with a diameter of tens of meters boomed, and dragged their tails of black smoke towards Midier. Fireballs, ice balls, gusts of wind, thunder, cracks in the mountains and rivers, changes in light and shadow. Having many abilities at the same time is not the same as being able to use many abilities at the same time, but Zhu Yu can do it and release abilities of 13 different attributes at the same time. After a round of pure and incomparable supernatural power collision, Midier was eventually found to have a loophole because his abilities were too single compared to Zhu Yu, and he was thus exhausted to death. This powerful and experienced warrior was ultimately no match for the monster created in Zhu Yu's laboratory. After Zhu Yu won the battle, he only told Zhang Yi the news unilaterally. Mr. Chaos, I win. Zhang Yi was still in a fierce battle at this time. When he heard the news, he took the time to quickly reply. Congratulations, you can enjoy your spoils now. Zhu Yu nodded, and first went over to take Midier's ability for himself. From now on, her control over celestial abilities will become even stronger. And it also has the ability to control water. The essence of the Black Chariot-level alien made her swallow it with great pleasure. She felt her whole body trembling and her face flushed. The indescribable feeling of joy made her find a stone to lie down comfortably, and she no longer wanted to do anything. Take a break, and savor this delicious victory. Phantom Snake Slake died in battle. Son of Weather, Middle was killed in battle. Bad news continued to spread, but this news did not come from within the Wulwan Empire's military, but was broadcast in real time by Yang Xinxin. She enjoyed torturing her enemies this way. Of course, this is not meaningless, but it can destroy their fighting will. It would be best to make them completely despair and then choose to commit suicide so as to minimize the losses of the Huashu National Coalition forces. What? Didn't you say the main force is not the mechanical army? Are you kidding me? The cost of building a mechanical life form is extremely expensive. It is unknown how much materials and energy crystals will be needed to repair the mechanical life forms destroyed in the war. So, of course, we should try to reduce consumption as much as possible. Yang Xinshin was sitting on the throne of the Wulwan Empire's palace at this time. The hall was full of dead bodies, which were royal family members, nobles, palace guards, and maids. At this time, there were few living people in the entire palace of the Wulwan Empire. In front of Yang Xinshin, several lizard men in bright and beautiful clothes were kneeling at the foot of the imperial steps. Among them were the Queen of Sea and several ministers who held real power. Yang Xinshin kept them for the time being because she still needed to find out various confidential information about the Wulwan Empire from them. Yang Xinshin sat on the throne like a noble queen, and her temperament was more like that of a king than sea. The slaves below had their heads pressed to the ground, not daring to look up. Tell me all the core secrets of the Wulwan Empire that you know." Yang Xinshin held her chin with one hand and said calmly, "By the way, what I want to do most now is to destroy the entire Wulwan tribe and plunder all the valuable resources of the Wulwan Empire. No one knows the Wulwan Empire better than you. Tell us." The ministers and royal family members below rushed to pledge their loyalty to Yang Xinshin. The Wulwan Empire is very rich in mineral resources. The location where we founded our country is a huge mineral vein. There are huge mineral reserves underground, enough to support us for another 3,000 years. Also, if you want to exterminate our entire race, you must ensure that all escape routes are blocked. This is because when the Wulwan Empire was founded, it left behind many escape routes, specifically prepared for situations like today. Those outstanding noble children have been sent to safe areas as the sparks of fire. They will reproduce and thrive in the future. Relying on the resources reserved for them, they can rebuild a civilization. Yang Xinshin raised the corner of her mouth and said, "Well, I'll leave the task of hunting them down to you. I will obey your orders, Your Majesty. It is very convenient to let their own people hunt down their own people, and it also saves the coalition forces from looking everywhere." Chapter 2270, Fallen One After Another, Part 2. In another battlefield, the battle between power of the 8 gods Aonimo and Xuanwu and Suzaku has also come to an end. The 8 animal forms that he was proud of had already been thoroughly studied by Xuanwu and Suzaku. All the two were waiting for was Yang Xinshin's order for the general attack. After receiving the order, he began to attack Aonimo without mercy. Xuanwu was massive, a mobile fortress. Suzaku was light, and the ice prison Suzaku's icy flames possessed a natural ability to restrain all melee aliens. Once infected by the icy flames, there was no escape unless one's flesh and bones were shattered. After 2 hours of fierce fighting, Aonimo could not escape the pursuit of the two men, no matter whether he was in the form of a flying bird, a giant bear, or a ghost shark. In the end, he was exhausted to death by the two of them. However, in another area, Xiao Lai and his 2 brothers' battle with God's Cloak Court was not so smooth. Xiao Lai's ability index is not too high. After all, in the past 3 or 4 years, he was just a senior military officer who was suppressed by Li Changgong. The resources Li Changgong gave him were limited, and he was able to grow to where he is today entirely due to his own secret efforts. However, less than a year after becoming the supreme commander, he did not concentrate all resources on himself like Li Changgong did, but instead worked hard to train his subordinates. Now, the second-generation Sky God of War by Zhan, his very favorite successor, has also broken through to the realm of the White Chariot. Comparatively speaking, Xiao Lai only had 22,000 points, which seemed somewhat pitiful for a person with the highest combat power in a region. However, with the help of the super-large mechanical life form and the assistance of Chen Jiahao and Qi Yuquan, and with an absolute advantage in intelligence, he and Court did gain a certain advantage in the battle. But he didn't expect that even if he cut off Court's opportunity to obtain new consumables, he didn't expect that Court actually carried a lot of consumables with him. The God's Cloak is itself a code, worn on other creatures to drain all their vitality for battle. Over the years, Court has trained many talented subordinates. When their strength reaches a point that he can control, he will directly turn them into living dead and then refine them into nutrient blocks. He engaged in a fierce battle with Xiao Lai in this empty urban area. Xiao Lai controlled the super-large mechanical life form, and the chains turned into black dragons, blocking and killing it. As for Xiao Lai himself, he was able to use various weapons and strengthen his body to fight. An ordinary hand cannon, in his hands, becomes a powerful black dragon cannon. On the battlefield, artillery fire roared violently, and the two men fought until their blood boiled, even erasing all traces of the city. But Court is too hard to kill. Whenever he suffered irreparable damage, he would simply replace the core. He didn't know how many of these things he had on him. Each of them was once a genius of the lizard clan, but he ruthlessly refined them into consumables. Court grinned grimly, dodging Xiao Lai's attack, then turned around and fired a powerful energy cannon directly from his palm, heading straight for Xiao Lai. Xiao Lai raised his shield to block, and the shield made of a metal alloy activated, like the gate of hell blocking in front of him. This is so frustrating. The battle lines have already begun to collapse on a large scale, and several silver armor generals have died. Damn it, damn it. All of you land monkeys deserve to die. Court's face was terribly cold at this time, and he was a little impatient in his heart. But the guy in front of him was well prepared, and it would be difficult for him to take him down in a short time. It doesn't matter. Let's just keep fighting. My comrades will come to support us soon. You're doomed, Xiao Lai said in a deep voice, deliberately putting psychological pressure on Court. Court looked around coldly. It was impossible for him to escape at this moment. First, the black chains extending from the super-large mechanical life forms have formed a dense encirclement. With Xiao Lai's enhanced abilities, it was impossible to break through quickly. If he wanted to break out, Xiao Lai behind him and the human cannon Qinjiahao would give him a heavy blow. Do you really want to fight me to the death? Damn bastard, Court said in a cold voice. He was a cold-blooded and ruthless man. Since the defeat was already decided, he had no intention of fighting to the death. Anyway, with his strength, he could do well no matter where he escaped to, so he began to think about retreating. Xiao Lai frowned. Do you think I will let you go at this point? Complete victory is just around the corner. Zhang Yi said that any lizard man who escapes may sow the seeds of hatred. The Huashu kingdom itself grew from a weak period and then came to seek revenge. Of course, they are unwilling to give others such an opportunity. Therefore, they will not let go of any of the lizard men of the Wulwan clan. Court gnashed his teeth in anger, and suddenly he grinned and took out another white doll from his arms. But this white doll did not look like a lizard man, but the appearance of humans. This was the captain-level alien they captured during the first invasion of the Wulwan Empire. Well, I'll kill you first. I guess refining you into my consumable will make me stronger, haha. After saying this, Court swallowed the humanoid consumable into his belly. A moment later, he turned into a human appearance. When Xiao Lai saw this, his eyes immediately became strange, because the body used by Court was actually a former senior general in the Northwest region. He probably knew this, that this was all intentional. Just as Court was about to make a desperate effort, a voice suddenly came from a distance. Xiao Lai, aren't you being too slow? Hearing this voice, Court's movements paused in midair. Xiao Lai also frowned, and his expression looked even uglier than when he was facing Court. Because the person who came was actually Li Chonggong. That's right, Li Chonggong killed in seconds, and then rushed directly to the battlefield where Xiao Lai was. He had 2 sabers on his waist, his combat uniform was clean and not damaged at all, and he had a calm smile on his face. It can be seen that his battle ended easily, without encountering any obstacles. Xiao Lai already knew that Li Chonggong had dealt with his opponent cleanly and neatly, but he didn't know the opponent would come over, and he didn't plan to ask Li Chonggong for help. Court's eyes turned, and when he saw Li Chonggong, he was extremely shocked. Li Chonggong's information is in their database, and he certainly knows that this guy is a Black Chariot-level mutant. Now, the situation is dangerous. Court stuck out his long tongue, licked his lips, and said in a somewhat dry voice, Hiss, Are you trying to bully the minority with your numbers? It doesn't matter, just come over. Anyway, no one else will know. Chapter 2272, Falling One After Another, Part 2. Faced with this clumsy provocation, Li Changgong just curled the corners of his mouth, but did not even look at Court, but looked at Xiao Lai. Can you do it? If not, then I'll do it. Chun Jiahao and Qi Yuquan looked at each other, feeling helpless. The two supreme commanders of the Northwest region appeared in the same place, and Li Changgong was deprived of power, which made them very embarrassed. They only know that Li Changgong is now more powerful than when they seized power from him. Even in the battle that night, they used some tricks. If Li Changgong took the opportunity to attack Xiao Lai and them, who could stop him? Li Changgong seemed to sense their thoughts and sneered. Don't worry, I wouldn't bother doing such a thing. At the very least, don't forget that I, Li Changgong, am also a soldier of the Huaxiu Kingdom. Even if I want to deal with you, it will be after this battle. Court laughed, hee. Are you enemies? How about I step aside and let you guys solve the problem yourselves? You wish. Li Changgong and Xiao Lai glared at him together. Their personal grudge was one thing, but the battle for Huaxiu's national destiny was another. Xiao Lai thought for a moment and finally said to Li Changgong, we must fight quickly and decisively and wipe out the entire Wulwan tribe. This is the order given to us by Chaos. Li Changgong, let's join forces. After we kill him, I can give you 30% of the origin power. Chun Jiahao and Qi Yuquan looked at Xiao Lai together. Commander, the Black Chariot-level alien origin is a priceless treasure. They have been fighting for such a long time, and the situation is very favorable. If they continue to fight, they are likely to achieve final victory. Xiao Lai remained indifferent and looked at Li Changgong. The smile on Li Changgong's face slowly faded. He came here originally intending to laugh at Xiao Lai's joke. Now, after his trip to the Deep Sea Kingdom, he received guidance from King Jin and ate the sun fruit, and his ability index has reached 27,000 points. If he wanted to kill Xiao Lai, it would be very easy. But he didn't expect that Xiao Lai still didn't put his personal interests first until this time. Li Changgong was deeply shocked. After a long silence, he said slowly, I finally understand why they all stood on your side during the rebellion that day. During the rebellion that night, the major legions had noticed the movements of Xiao Lai and his men. However, no one sent troops to attack, and there was no unrest after the change of power. Li Changgong recognized Xiao Lai, who was indeed more suitable to be a military district commander than himself. At this moment, Li Changgong felt relieved. In fact, he had let it go a long time ago. No matter what regional commander or local king, they are nothing but dust in the face of absolute strength. Today, his strength has reached 27,000 points, close to the bishop level, and he understands this more and more. Finally, my training of you wasn't in vain. Ha ha ha. Li Changgong laughed heartily, his face full of relief. Xiao Lai and the others were speechless. What have you trained us for? It seems that his personality of liking to flatter himself has not changed. After Li Changgong finished laughing, his figure suddenly disappeared from where he was. 6 realms without distance, the power of teleportation. In a short-distance attack, he is faster than Zhang Yi. Court only felt a strong sense of death enveloping his body. He turned around suddenly and pushed out his right palm towards Li Changgong. God's Starstream. Vast energy shot from the palm of his hand towards Li Changgong. All Li Changgong did was draw his sword and strike. The dazzling torrent of energy split apart the moment before it touched the blade, like a torrent encountering a mountain in a river, splitting into 2 halves, without even a single bit touching Li Changgong's body. Court was stunned. His attack was totally ineffective. How strong is this guy in front of me? Li Changgong quickly gave him the answer, teleported closer to his body again, and then slashed him in the face with a fierce knife. The setting sun is like blood, the evening breeze is like a knife, and a strong sense of death blooms with the attack of the blade. Realizing the strength of the enemy before him, Court instantly burst out with all his strength, draining everything out of this body in one breath. A torrent of energy shot up into the sky, heading straight for the man in front of him and his blade. Laugh. Li Changgong ignored his defense and counterattack, and just slashed with his sword lightly and swiftly, as if he was slashing through the air. Court's body, the divine robe, silently split into two halves. How is this possible? Court made a hoarse sound, but before he could say anything else, the coat turned into dust in the air in an instant, like a piece of rotten clothes that encountered the wind. The sword of death, the blade of death. If Zhang Yi's ability is absolute defense, then Li Changgong's ability is absolute offense. This former military genius of Huashu Kingdom has now completely completed his transformation. The strength displayed by Li Changgong left Xiao Lai and the other two stunned. They didn't expect that Li Changgong had grown to such a level in less than a year. For a moment, Xiao Lai felt a little complicated. He wanted Li Changgong to return to the Northwest region because the Northwest region needed a powerful alien to take charge. But when he thought of Li Changgong's style of doing things, he shook his head secretly. Li Changgong said nothing, but used the blade in his hand to split Court's alien origin into two parts. He only took 30%, which was what he deserved, and the remaining 70% was stored in an energy storage tank and given to Xiao Lai. Take it. After Li Changgong finished speaking, he flicked his cloak, jumped out of the place, and headed towards the city. The battle is not over yet. Cleaning up everything here and finishing the work are also important. Xiao Lai looked at Li Changgong's receding back, feeling somewhat confused. He's become different, Xiao Lai murmured. Behind him, Chen Jiahao and Shi Yuquan walked over. Xiao Shuai. Don't be fooled by his appearance. It's easy to change the country, but it's hard to change one's nature. Chen Jiahao said to Xiao Lai. Shi Yuquan also said, because we have an agreement that no one is allowed to attack their own people here. Without the supervision of Han Dun and the others, who knows what he would do? After Xiao Lai pondered for a moment, he calmly said, let's forget about this. Next, the entire army will attack. Conduct a blanket inspection of the entire city. He turned around and said to Chen Jiahao and Shi Yuquan seriously, word by word, don't let a single lizard man go. I only want the corpse. The two men saluted solemnly. Yes, Commander. Dear viewers, thanks for staying with me. We'll try to get you more updates. Please like and subscribe and share the video with your friends. Love you all.